Hello, and welcome to Fork in the Loaf. I'm going to continue on with the food source stuff. To me, this is probably one of the boring subjects because it's not food related. It is, but it's more about life. Water, storing your water, having water that you can drink and that you can use to brush your teeth and that you can use to all that stuff. It's really important, surprisingly. Something that nobody likes to, you don't think about it or consider it until it's too late. So I was looking at the CDC, and that's Centers for Disease Control, I think, or something. Anyway, they have a whole thing on water, safety, water, how to find water, if emergency strikes, all that fun stuff, how to store water. And I just kind of want to cover some of the ways that we store water. I know that in different areas of the world it's different. I love to watch, there's this Guanxi grandma. She's on YouTube. She does this traditional, she does farming and foraging, and she cooks everything kind of traditionally. And I watch how she gets her water. There's another gal over in Cambodia that I love to watch, and how she keeps they've got these big, huge cistern type things that they keep water in, and they just pull it out with a little handle and they boil it. And that's how they have clean drinking water and all that kind of stuff. And so I believe that sometimes we as Americans can be over cautious about how we live and how we do our, how we consume things. But with that being said, I am in America. I am going to do things. I am going to consider how we as Americans would do it, because that's all I know. And so one of the things, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the number one way that we store water. And according to the CDC, it's the cleanest way. Bottled water. I hate these things. I have, in my last video, I said we've got bottles from probably about this is probably 9 years old-ish. And it's all contorting and looking all crazy from being, it's down in the garage. It gets a little bit warm. It gets a little cold. It never gets freezing. It never gets roasting. But it does kind of vacillate a little bit in temperature. And I've kept them because I have a Berkey, which I can put these through the top of that Berkey and they'll be fine. I wouldn't mind brushing my teeth with these. I wouldn't mind, using it on my skin or stuff like that. But I would not want to drink this at this point unless I had run it through a filter. So that is one way. When we think of emergency water, we are looking at more than just what we are going to drink that day. We are looking at brushing our teeth. We're looking at reconstituting. In using food storage, this right here is a ham and potato soup that I've run through my freeze dryer, and boil some water and fill this up with water and all that you can fit in there. Just cap it, let it sit on the counter for a few minutes, and you've got yourself a ready-made meal. It's going to take water though. You're going to need water for, really think about all the things that you actually use water for. Washing your hands. You do not have to use a potable water for washing your hands, but you do kind of want it a little clean, especially if you touch your face, put food in your mouth with your fingers. You're not going to want to have dirty water on your hands. It's still not clean. I know that Giardia, and there's another one too, but those kinds of things you can get them. I have a friend who had gone fishing, and she got Giardia from having her hands in a lake water, and it took her a little while to find out what it was, and she'd gotten it from like a hangnail or something. I don't even know exactly how it happened. It could have been because her hands were in the lake water and then she ate something, or I don't know. I just know that is a thought in my head to make sure that we are using clean water as much as we can. I would probably use this to make rice. It's gonna cook. I would probably use it to boil potatoes, but I don't know that I would just crack it open and consume it. Not at this point. I mean, can you see that? Another way that I have stored water, okay, I haven't done a lot of this, but like the other day, I just canned 6 quarts of broth and I had a 7th spot and I'm like, here, let's just put water in this, and I canned a thing of water. So this is not only potable, clean water, but it is, it's sealed. I sealed it just like I did my broth. I haven't even taken the lids off these yet because I just, so that's one way. And what I would do is I would label this drinking water and I would date it for the date that I've made it. I don't know how long this will last. I don't know how long it's good for, but as I use my jars all the time, so when it comes time, like if ever I need this particular jar, I'm gonna crack it open, use the water for something else, and then I've got a clean jar ready for canning. So I also have a 55-gallon drum. It's a big blue thing. It's really hard to fill, it takes forever, and it's really hard to empty. It's really heavy and it takes forever. But it's 55 gallons of water that's available if anything happens. If you use municipal water that has been treated to fill your water jugs, there's the 5-gallon square things that my mother-in-law and father-in-law really like. I think you can get them in your camping area, like Walmart in the camping section, or Amazon. I know Uline has them. Ranching places would have them, but they would have, they're about 5 gallons. You can use those, and those stack. If you Pinterest like the 55-gallon water drums, there's actual systems out there where they have them. There's one that I would love to do. It's kind of gravity fed, and you have 2 or 3 of those 55-gallon drums laying on their sides stacked, and they connect, and then you have a spigot down at the bottom, and it just, maybe if I find a picture, I'll post it on here. There's somebody I was talking to said they had about 1,000 gallons stored somewhere underground. I don't know if it's true, and I don't remember who said it. I don't remember anything about it. I just remember they said they had 1,000 gallons stored in ground. There's cisterns. There's if you have a well, just have access to that. When we get our property, I want a hand pump that is connected to our well somehow, some way where it can pull up water without power. So you're getting a lot of talking from me today. Make sure that when you are storing your your water, make sure that when you're storing your water that it's a food grade container. Make sure it's not something that's had bleach in it or laundry soap. If you are going to put water in those, make sure that they are marked as non-potable, or they're not drinking water. They are just for washing hands, doing your laundry, stuff like that. I would not use that to drink. They actually recommend not using glass, and I can understand that because this bad boy's heavy and glass breaks. So if this breaks and the water is in it, at that point you do not want to drink it. You don't know if there's glass shards in there. That would hurt you. So if that breaks, you dump the water. Make sure that the top closes tightly, like on these water bottles. These are closed tight. You don't want debris getting in there. If you're in a flood situation, you don't want contaminated water getting inside of it. So you want to make sure that the cap closes tightly. Make sure that it's durable, that it's not breakable, and make sure that it's easy to pour. That's the one thing about this 55-gallon drum. I want to put a spigot on it. We're not there yet. We'll probably do that when we get into the property. But right now, we have this little hand pump thing that we stick down inside of it, and it's not very good. And it hardly works. But, if we were in an emergency situation, we'd just take that top off somehow if we had to cut it off, or, whatever, to access that water. I do know that if you know something is coming, like a hurricane or a tornado, stuff like that, where you know that you are probably going to be out of power. I've seen people fill up their bathtubs so that they have flushing water, fill up their sinks, that kind of thing, so that you are prepared that way. But that's a last minute preparation. So when you are getting ready to use a container like that 55-gallon drum or a 5-gallon bucket or whatever you're going to use to store your water, there's a way to clean out your container. If you take a quart of water and add a teaspoon of bleach, and then you use that to shake it up around inside and let that just sit on there for a few minutes. And then you can let it sit on there for a few minutes, dump it out, rinse it out really good, and then let it dry. All that bleach evaporates, everything's cleaned out, and everything is ready to go. You can fill it, and it's good. It'll be sanitary enough to store water for 6 months if you're using treated water. If you're not using treated water, you can treat it. And I'll get to that in just a second. I know that with a gallon of water, you add a capful of bleach, and it makes a sanitizing solution. You want to be careful you don't use too much as well, because that can just be you're adding too much chemical, and that chemical leaves a residue. So you just want enough that it's going to disinfect without reinfecting or infecting it with its own chemical, kind of a thing. You want to make sure that the water that you have stored is not in sunlight, direct sunlight. Well, actually, I mean, I've got chickens, and so I've got waterers out there, and that direct sunlight creates all sorts of algae, no matter what we do. Unless we treat their water with some sort of a chemical, which no way, I want my chickens to have good, healthy, whole stuff, right? I don't want to feed them chemicals. They are, that water in direct sunlight will create algae and all sorts of ugly things. So you don't want to keep it in direct sunlight. You also want to make sure that you're not storing it right next to a tub of gas or a tub of whatever chemicals you don't want it sitting around with a bunch of chemicals. Concrete, my understanding is you don't want it sitting right on concrete. We have like 2x4s that we set the barrel on top of the 55-gallon drum, so that it's like 2 to 4 inches off of the concrete, so that the concrete does something, absorbs up into the situation. My phone's making noises. So if you're in the situation where you do have water, it's contaminated, you don't have a whole lot stored up, and you have to use something outside, the best way to do it is to boil it. It will kill all the germs. If it's cloudy water, grab a coffee filter, grab some cloth. I have these flour cloth sack towels that I use on bread and all kinds of other things. Take that and lay it in a sieve and pour your water through that, and that will help clear out all the debris before you boil it, to make it safe enough to drink. You can try using bleach. You can try using some of those water cleaning tablets and stuff, but those will not kill Giardia or something else. I can't remember the name of the other thing, but there's like a couple things that you have to boil it in order to get rid of that. If you don't have any sort of filtering device available, you can just let it sit there and settle till all the gunk rests on the bottom, and then just kind of scoop it off the top or pour it off of the top of that, and then boil it. You can treat it. You can put in I don't remember how much. Give me just a minute, I'll get there. But you want to boil clear water for 1 minute, let it cool, and it's perfectly drinkable. It can get flat, so if it does get flat, you can take it and you just kind of pour it back and forth and aerate it between 2 cups or glasses, or just add a little pinch of salt and stir it up till the salt dissolves. If you're above 6,500 square feet, I understand you want to boil it for about 3 minutes. Another thing you can do is use bleach or iodine or chlorine tabs, and they won't kill. Cryptosporidium is what it is. Cryptosporidium or Giardia. It won't kill those. And I think, let me get my bleach. A couple things about the bleach is you want to make sure that it's scentless, that it doesn't have any fragrances in it. Those fragrances do not taste good in water, right? There should be a thing on here that tells you about how to make drinkable water. Looking to see if mine does. You want to make sure that The hypochlorite is at least 5 to 9%. So I'm looking on here and I don't even see any of that information on here. I also know that the chlorine will it degrades with age. So, and once you add it to water, you want to use it as a disinfectant pretty quickly. I think you have 2 hours. So this is 6.05% sodium hydrochloride. Let's see if I can show you that. Let's see, it's right. Those are just some of the ways that you can disinfect your water if you do ever get into a situation where you need to clean water. So another thing, besides having drinkable water, there are other ways that you can get little bits of water. I mean, I wouldn't want to use it as a glass of water, but in order to save your water, you can use broth to do rice or to rehydrate your potato soup. You can use, this is a teriyaki chicken that I've canned. I could save the broth out of that and use it in cooking rice, or use it to cook vegetables, or use it to do whatever I might need in food. And you want to make sure it's a savory food, because that would be kind of gross in a dessert, in my humble opinion. You can use your canned fruit juices to do stuff like muffins. You can use your canned fruit juices to do stuff like pancakes, or anything that you need that you can make sweet. Use it to make oatmeal. Use it to make, to rehydrate things that are sweet, to create foods that don't need, or that you don't have milk available for, or that you don't have clean water available for. You can use your canned vegetables, canned fruits, canned meats, all that kind of stuff. Here's a chicken marsala, and although that is marsalad, I could use that to make mashed potatoes or rice, to, you know, boil potatoes in, or whatever. So be creative. You don't have to have water for everything. I don't have any large, I do have some of the gallon size. So distilled water, I'm understanding, is not drinkable. It's not something you're supposed to drink. Some people, I think it's a controversial thing. Some people believe you can, some people believe you can't. I'm on that fence that you can't. It's kind of void of any minerals. And my understanding is there's a negative ion or negative something or other in there that actually attracts some of the minerals in your body and pulls it, or I don't know details. Do your own research. Here's distilled water. I use this for stuff like making soap. I've never fed it to my babies in their water. You can store water that way. Just for me, I just have to remember, use what I store what I use, or eat what I store what I eat. So this kind of stuff, I won't buy these ever again. Rare occasion I get them, but I'd rather my kids have a water bottle. Because these end up like, this much has gone out of it, and they're left all over my house. So anyway, those are just some ideas. I'm going to leave the link to the CDC water stuff down in my description down below, which is where I got a lot of the information that I got. It's not something that I focus hard on. It's not something that I put a lot of effort into, but I definitely have it considered in my processes. I definitely have it in my mindset to make sure that I have something. They say 1 gallon per day per person. So have at least 3 days water supply stored. If that means 1 case of water, that's 1 case of water that you wouldn't have of these yucky bottled waters, right? You can also, like if you're doing a 72-hour kit, you're probably going to have 3 days worth of water in there. So yeah, it's not something you need to break the bank for or go overboard for, but you know, grab a gallon of water every time you go to the store. If you have 5 kids in your family, make sure you have 15 gallons of water somewhere in your house. If you have 10 kids, 10 people in your family, make sure you have 30 gallons of water somewhere. A 55-gallon drum would be perfect for you. And then really the CDC actually recommends about 2 weeks. I mean, I look at the people down in Helene and they still don't all have running water. So Helene hit September 26th. It is today, for me, it's October 29th. It's been over a month and they're still dealing with the aftermath, and it's like, be prepared for that. if you're prepared for at least 2 weeks of that, by then you've got people coming to you with water. You've got people coming to you with food. You have a time to get out, to get to water, you know, whatever you need to get to. But have yourself prepared for a few days, because you're not, after it hits, you're not gonna, I wouldn't be like, here, I just lost half my house. I'm gonna do what I can to see what I can to recollect everything around me. And then when things start getting calmed down a little bit, I might start heading out looking for relief. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on water storage. You are totally, it's up to you what you end up doing. And thanks for joining me on this adventure of A Fork in the Loaf, and I will see you next time. Have a good night.